Valued partners, the media partners present, invited guests, ladies and gentlemen, not only am I excited to present the report, but I will say I am very honored to stand before you to present this year's Index of Government Institutions Performance Towards Economic Prosperity. As it is usually my manner, I am not used to standing in one place when presenting. So I doubt I will stand here throughout. That is why I have the wireless microphone. So I might be moving around a bit. So just for the media coverage as well. And it is really a growth project, as you have confirmed. And listening to the expectations, I had a second thought, probably might have to change the presentation to meet everyone's expectation, but unfortunately it wouldn't work. So we just present what we have. And I am very confident that before the presentation ends, your expectations will harmoniously be fulfilled. So, if you wonder what the index is about, the Index of Government Institutions Performance Towards Economic Prosperity is an index that uses 5 indicators, and the aim is to assess the government institutions in Ghana. So we focus on Ghana, then we focus on the institutions. Now, to introduce, I'll give you a background to it. So we have the Economic Freedom World Index, which is by Canada's Fraser Institute. It's a very popular index, and so if you want to read more about it after here, you can read more about it. But what we do is that we first looked at that index and looked at what it has done so far and what we can build on it, and realized that the index, the Economic Freedom World Index, actually highlights the performance of various countries across the globe. And we see that it looks at some of the intrusions that various governments in various countries make. And when we talk about Economic Freedom Index, we are looking at the ability, as CEO talked about, the ability of individuals to make their decisions regarding economic prosperity. So when we looked at what the Economic Freedom World Index does, we realize that it mentions about government intrusion into economic freedom, but it doesn't mention much about the government institutions. So what we do is that we look at that lack of detail, and what we provide is we provide a localized assessment. So where we look at the local level, and then we also look at the local level. So it's a combination of the globe and then our local context. Because we feel that although it measures about 160 countries, it just looks at the national level, and we are looking at intra-nation. Now, the reason why, if you are wondering why it is performance towards economic prosperity, it is because economic freedom drives economic prosperity. So wherever there is economic freedom, it will lead to economic prosperity. And when there is an overly government intrusion, or there is excessive government control, and there is some policy in capitalism, it hinders this economic freedom. And we try to look at it from our local context and still adopt the global principles to look at how our institutions here are utilizing their capacity and their mandate to support economic freedom. Now, why are we focusing on the institutions, you may ask? It is because it is very important to understand these days that the institutions that we have, the government institutions, could do one of two things. It could catalyze economic freedom, or it could also have been a way of capitalizing tyranny. So if there is a military government or there is a communist government, they exercise their power through these institutions. In the same way, when we have these institutions working very well in an economically free country or market, we realize that they also facilitate that. And then the institutions could also be a source of control over the economic activity. So these institutions will stifle people's right to engage in economic activity. they could also enhance this right. And what we aim at is to create a baseline year-on-year report or assessment of these institutions. So although this is the first of its kind, we hope that it will continue yearly, and then we see how the institutions will be faring. And we also focus on our country, so it's an intra-country comparison. So instead of comparing countries, we are comparing the institutions within Ghana. And in doing this, we are able to get a clearer picture of how the institutions are exerting driving force for economic freedom. And to do that, we use 5 indicators. So service delivery quality, and then we looked at transparency and accountability of the institutions. We looked at money management, and we looked at work and people efficiency, and then finally we looked at public engagement. So I'll just take them one by one, and then I'll explain what each of them is. So when we talk about service delivery quality, we look at these institutions, how timely is the service they provide to the people, and how responsive are they to the Ghanaian people, and how long do they take to process the things that the service or the mandate given to them, and then how satisfied are the citizens in the services that these institutions provide for them. Then we also look at money management, which is the second indicator. These institutions, what is their ability to manage public funds, so the pairs that they have access to, how do they manage it? We look at their audit reports, what reports are out there, what do the auditors say about their reports, and then what is the scope of the project that they do, and then do they adhere to the margins of the project, and then what are the corruption issues emerging from these institutions, and issues about the misuse of funds. Look at transparency and accountability. So the transparency and accountability is also about how transparent and accountable these institutions are to the Ghanaian masses. So we looked at things like the availability of public records and the access to these public records, and then the ability to implement anti-corruption measures, and then right to information response. So if you want information about that institution, is it easy for you to request for it? And how accountable they are for their actions. Do they take responsibility for their actions? Then the fourth indicator, people and work efficiency, is about the people that work in the institution. The first thing we look at is employee to citizen ratio. Do you have enough people working in these government institutions to deliver the mandate given to them? And then do they have enough training and capacity building? And then are employees in that organization or institution satisfied with the welfare they receive? And to what degree do they leave or usually maintain their work engagement? Then the last one is how these institutions engage the general public in what they do and how they include the public. So there are things that we looked at. Example, do they have complaints channel where they take complaints from the people? How frequent are they able to engage the people or make the people aware of what they do or get to the people? And then what amount of information from the public do they take to improve their services? So these are the overall judgment criteria we use to assess the performance of the government institutions. Now, someone mentioned that they are keen to know the methodology, and I presume that such a person is research inclined, and so we thought it wise to talk about that as well. So we have the project, we did a project in 3 phases. The first phase was gathering of secondary data. So we went to, I'll talk about that later, but we went to the institution's website and various media platforms and various repositories to extract data on each of the institutions. And we settled on 50 institutions. There are many government institutions, but we selected 50 for a number of reasons. One being the timeline, the budget constraints, and also we try to make sure that we have institutions covering all the various arms of government and various levels of government. So the 3 arms, the legislative, the judiciary, and the executive, we have various representations, and then also agencies, authorities, ministries, so from various, so we make it diversified. But we hope that as the project goes on, we'll be able to expand and include more institutions. Then we did a focus group, we had a workshop, so we invited academics, we invited people from these institutions that we are talking about, and then we also invited people in governance consultancy and a wide range of stakeholders. And then we presented the preliminary findings from secondary data, and then they gave their insight and then their recommendations as well. Then the last thing we did was design a performance metric. So the performance metric we designed, we tried to assign values to the information that we have by looking at the degree to which they promote economic freedom. So that these are the phases, the process we went through. And this is how we gathered the data. So we went to the institution's own website, and sadly a lot of them don't have updated information. We asked them, and some of them complained that you didn't come to us for information. What we have on our website is not very current. But we did initially start from the institution's website, where we were able to get the mandate, what are they authorized to do, what is their responsibility, why are they in existence, and then we did archival search. So we looked at various publications, various briefs, and various information that are out there by these research institutions and other publishing houses about these institutions. And then we also engaged the media, particularly the online media, both within the country and outside the country, on information about these institutions. And then we also lastly analyzed their report over the last 10 years to come up with information about them. Then how we analyze the data. So we went through a set of rigorous process. We created files for each institution, to the 10 institutions, and then we uploaded the information we gathered from the repositories and the publications into them. Then under each folder, we actually created them. We created subfolders according to the indicators that I mentioned earlier, and then we put the information into each of them. Then we did coding, which is a bit more technical, but it's, if you are research inclined, you know something around in vivo and other processes which we did. And then we quantified the post and did the classification, and then we interpreted the results where we came up with some metrics, which I'll show you later. And then we did triangulation. So after we came up with the assessment, we still went back to the initial information we gathered to compare that this ranking, let's compare back to the information we did, so match what we have to make sure that we have the right ranking of values for the institution. Now, I'll tell you about these indicators that these categorizations that we came with. So we had the marks, the score, and then what we think they should be, or the ranking that they should. So if you are able to score between 90 to 100, then it is classified as highest performance towards economic prosperity. If it is between 80 to 90, we say it is very high performance towards economic prosperity. If it is from 60 to 80, then it is high performance. 50 to 60 in that order. And if you look at it, the pass mark is 50. So happily, 41 out of the 50 institutions that we assessed had a pass mark of 50. And unfortunately, 9 of these institutions couldn't get satisfactory mark at all. So we say that they are failed institutions. Of course, not failed in the sense that they can't do anything, but they need more improvement. So these are the institutions, a snapshot of it. I won't talk about all 50 because we have them in the report. You can take time and go through each of them in the report. But the Ministry of Interior ranked first with a very good score of 80.8, which is very high performance. And it is the only institution that was in that category. A lot of the other institutions fell between 60 to 80, as I indicated earlier on. So you can have all of these in the average version of the report. But what we need to focus on is the last 9 institutions which couldn't meet any pass mark. And we have the Ministry of Defense, we have the Ghana Immigration Service, the Ministry of Youth and Sport, that Ghana Water Company Limited, the Ministry of Education, Ministry of Employment and Labour Relations, Ghana Airports Company Limited. We've got Ghana Armed Forces and Ghana Great Company, which was the last institution, the 50th, and their respective marks there. What we will do, what I will do in the presentation is look at these 9 institutions, the weaknesses. We can't cover all 50. They are detailed in the report, so you have time to look at it after this presentation. But the Ministry of Defense, this is the breakdown of how they performed in each of the 5 indicators that I mentioned. So you could see they were okay with service delivery quality, but public engagement and inclusion was very poor, same as money management and transparency and accountability. But the people and the efficiency is also quite okay. We identified some weaknesses which we think are very paramount and have been consistent. So every weakness we mention is a consistent weakness. So there is a lot of financial irregularities and there is weak money management with the Ministry of Defense. There is limited public access based on what we found to procurement processes. For poor public engagement and increasing weak anti-corruption enforcement mechanisms. And of course, we understand that the Ministry of Defense will say that it's an institution that has to be well protected, so there is a lot of disclosure. But we did this report, we finished it some time ago, and coincidentally, just recently has been on the news about what has been transpired with NSB, I guess, so you know what's happening. So these are some of the issues that will come when we hide behind, the fact that it's the Ministry of Defense and we disclose things or engage the public and so on. So our recommendation for this institution is that there should be a strengthening of the transparency level, and then there should be a tighter financial management, and there should be more public engagement through a consistent stakeholder dialogue with what we should know about defense in the country. Probably a lot of us don't even know the defense system in the country. There should be a lot of public engagement, and they should also ensure there is capacity building. The other institution, so I'm saying it in order according to how it was in the table. So the Ghana Immigration Service, which was for the third, can see the snapshot, is doing very well in public engagement and inclusion. So of course, if you don't know anything at all, you know they always recruit people. So you know about Ghana Immigration Service. So people always are engaged with it. There's transparency and accountability as well. But it did very, very poorly with money management and people and work efficiency. So the people that are recruited, we don't see much efficiency from them. These are the weaknesses that we identified. Based on the data, there is inefficient money management with this institution. There is low staff efficiency and processing delays in the activities that they do. There is persistent budget constraints, and there is limited capacity to address some of these irregular migration and human trafficking issues. So there are a lot of migrations that are not controlled within the country, and some smuggling and so on and so forth. A recommendation is that there should be an enhanced financial management system and a stronger oversight over the funding processes. There should be an increased staff efficiency by training and providing better incentives to the employees. And then there should be a stronger anti-illegal migration effort. And then we believe that there should be broader public engagement. For instance, the Africa Free Continental Trade Agreement, there are some immigration officials at the borders that are not even aware of it, and they need to know about all these things. And then the Ministry of Youth and Sports, did well with service delivery as well, and then public engagement. But it did poorly with people and work efficiency, so the people in this ministry are not very efficient the data. There is poor money management, and then there is less accountability and transparency. These are some weaknesses, particularly that have been consistent over the years. Low work efficiency, and it's caused by stronger and bottleneck administration. There is delays in the disbursing of funds for sporting activities, so funds that are supposed to be disbursed, it is a very long time. There is inconsistent update to their financial report, so you don't know how they are performing financially. There is a slow pace in implementing policies that we actually come up with, especially things relating to anti-corruption, where there were a lot of scandals reported and they promised to put measures in place, but they were never put in place. Our recommendation is that there should be an expediting and efficient management of these sports funds that are allocated to the ministry. There should be stronger transparency. there should be a streamlined administrative process to make it easier to navigate the ministry. And then there should be public engagement as well, and there should be invest in capacity building for those in the ministry. And then Ghana Water Company Limited, as we might all be aware of, I think I don't need to speak much, but public engagement is good. Everybody knows that the water comes from Ghana Water Company Limited, so you don't have any problem with what they do. The service delivery is okay in terms of providing water, but the money management and then the people and work efficiency is very low. Then we have these identified weaknesses. There is inconsistent water supply, which I'm sure if not all of us, some of us might have testified. And there is insufficient work efficiency in this institution. And then, as somebody mentioned, they want to know, unfortunately, we can't speak directly about the water bodies and the Galamsey and so on. That is way out of the scope of our project. But just as a subtle weakness in this institution, the illegal money is also affecting the efficiency of this institution. Our recommendation is that there should be stronger financial controls. And then there should be modern water treatment facilities, which will be able to deal with some of these challenges that is facing the institution. And then there should also be collaboration with other environmental agencies. I think there is a lot more disconnect than it should be. The Ministry of Education, for which reason I'm here presenting the report. If they were not, they probably would have been educated. But sadly, they are at the bottom. Many people have lamented a lot of our education system, so it's not surprising. The transparency was quite okay, people and work was quite okay, public engagement was quite okay, but the service delivery is bad, so we are not getting the teaching service, and then the money management is also poor. These are the weaknesses that we identified consistently, which have been happening in this institution. Is that there's poor money management, which leads to resource losing. So things that are supposed to be, for instance, things around the school feeding program, things that are supposed to be delivered to the school doesn't get that. There is also financial inefficiencies and fund-based management, and actually the debate, which is supposed to be industry focused, is actually very disconnected from industry, so the curriculum doesn't really fit the industry needs based on those that are employed. The Ministry of Employment and Labour, this is their score as well. They did more with public engagement, but other things were not very good. Money management was bad, people and work efficiency, and service delivery was not good. These are the weaknesses that we identified. Inefficiencies in the service delivery processes. There is insufficient financial management, and there is also limited capacity building programs. And just as a way of somehow proving my point, who knows about GLMIS? That is Ghana Labour Market Information System. If you know, you just put up your hand. Is there anyone from the Ministry of Employment and Labour? Alright, so this is very important, and of everything that I've presented so far, this is one of the things that strikes me a lot. Because we complain about unemployment, and there is an infrastructure at this ministry called the Ghana Labour Market Information System, which is supposed to be a platform for employers and employees or those seeking for jobs to meet up. So it's supposed to be a platform. One of the things they're doing is to get people employed, and nobody in this room, or unless maybe some of you are being designers or don't want to pull up, knows about it. So it can improve its service delivery by expanding this and regularly evaluating the public engagement with it. It should also strengthen financial oversight, and it should also so one of the things, the shortfall in this infrastructure, which is actually, if they mention the amount that was invested in building this infrastructure, you might be shocked. But I think it's more important that there is an impact tracking for this institution that are they really making the impact? Yes, I think there will be time for engagement, so we'll discuss that. And then there should be public consultations, and then there should also be detailed annual reports from this institution. Alright, the Ghana Airport Company Limited did very well with the public engagement, and then transparency and accountability, but poor in service delivery quality, and then people and work engagement, efficiency, and then money management. Our identified weaknesses for this institution is that there is always inefficiencies in staff welfare issues. There is a lot of complaints from the staff in this institution. Service gets disrupted when there are maintenance, because a lot of the time the maintenance are not pre-planned. It just happens and they have to, more like emergency to disrupt service. And then there is limited capacity building for the workers. And then also there are financial challenges that affect the operations. So our recommendation, they could explore alternative revenue sources, and then they could also resolve a lot of the staff issues, because it's a critical area. And then they should also maintain scheduling of the maintenance, and then adopt modern technology, and engage stakeholder consultations. The Ghana Armed Forces is also one of the security areas. Also, they didn't perform well. The service delivery is good. They are doing well with that. But the money management, the public and work efficiency, transparency, and accountability were poor. And again, I think the problem with this institution is the fact that a lot of the time the security system becomes a firewall, which allows people to be inefficient or to misappropriate things. Our identified weaknesses, there is inefficiencies in the financial management system of this institution. There is limited public engagement. I believe if you go to other countries, people will get more insight into the security system, but we don't have a lot here. There should be a lot more public engagement, not a matter of leaking information, but in terms of people knowing what is going on with the institution. There should be stricter controls on the audits of these institutions, so that they don't always have to hide behind. There should be structured consultation and digital communication with the public, and there should be improvements in the workforce. In the last company, Grateful, did work with public engagement, money management, which has been consistent across all the institutions, is poor. People and work efficiency is also poor, and service delivery quality is poor. These are the weaknesses that we found with this institution. Our recommendation is that they should reinforce cash waterfall mechanism, and then they should also explore alternative funding sources, and then they should expand their technical training abilities, and then ensure that each project that they undertake is strictly monitored so that it will be within scope. Having mentioned the individual recommendations to the institutions, we also believe that the central government has some responsibilities, so some things that we could suggest to the central government. The central government should put focus on strengthening the institutional governance and the accountability, and it could do that by introducing digital tracking for public funds, where every public fund that is designated to these institutions is actually tracked to know where they are going, and also publishing quarterly expenditure reports for the public to scrutinize what is happening in the institutions. We also believe that the central government could play a significant role by having some functional and secure websites. Some of the websites, if I had my laptop here, I would have shown it to you. Government institution website, and they are not HTTPS. If anyone is an IT expert here will understand what I mean. It means we are very vulnerable to cyber attack. So the government should engage that, so that we will ensure that we have reliable information on there. We can get better information on there where people can access. And then we should also ensure that the public and the civil servants have functional institutional email addresses, because we struggle a lot getting people send email that's on the website. It's like it's not functional email. You go to and say no, the email doesn't work, or the number on there doesn't work. So all these systems should be put in place to ensure the institutions are effective for the public to reach them. There should be asset declaration, by public officials, which is there, but it's not enforced, and we believe it should be enforced. And then government institutions should grant at least 50% of the financial autonomy to these institutions, such that in the mental process it will not be somehow be misappropriated. We also believe the central government will help implement performance-based system in the institutions where subsequent funding will be based on what you did with the previous funding. And then we also believe that some underperforming institutions should be privatized. And then we also recommend that the central government would establish more regional courts to deal with some of the economic freedom disputes that arise between businessmen and institutions. And then we also believe that there should be a digitalization of the administrative records so that it will be accessible to the centralized system where there would be integration of the system and not for them to work in silos. And we believe that adopting a performance-based promotion system for civil servants will ensure that the people at the top positions are well qualified. These are our reports, and as I said, I was excited to present it, and I'm not sure how excited and how intrigued you are, but this is the end of the presentation. Thank you.